So here are 4 issues that tech founders under 5 million ARR face. And the first is they only focus on sales when they're about to miss their target. So what will happen is that they'll get halfway through the quarter, they realize that they're going to miss their target, and then they put pressure on everybody. They put pressure on the sales team, they put pressure on themselves to close whatever's in the pipeline now. So go back to that client, email them again, call them again, get them over the line. Do whatever you need to do to get them over the line. So they'll even offer discounts to clients and say, look, if you join now, then we'll discount it by X, or we'll waive the joining fee. But all you're doing there is you're just stealing from the future, and you're stealing from yourself. And actually you're putting a lot of pressure on the commercial team. And I've been in those environments before, and it's not a nice environment to be in. The second issue that they have is that they have this really rosy forecast and pipeline, but they still end up missing their number. So what will happen is that they'll look at their forecast and they'll think, oh great, like our pipeline's fantastic. We can now commit to hiring this new sales hire or this new operations person, or we can now invest in the product, or we can go back to the investors with an update as to kind of where we are. But because the pipeline wasn't real, they'll close that quarter and revenue doesn't come in, but now you've committed to those people or that investment, and that puts you in a very difficult position. The third issue is they tend to have this revolving door of sales hires. So every 6 months, a new salesperson will come into the business, flashy CV, they'll interview really well, they'll promise the world, but either the results happen too slowly or not at all, they'll get fired or they'll leave, and the same process will start again and again and again. The fourth issue is that the founder's the bottleneck. So the founder is the pipeline, and the client wants you in every sales conversation, in every conversation. You've got the technical ability, you've got the client relationships, you've seen the problem 100 different times from 100 different angles. So the client understandably wants you in the room. The challenge is that as soon as you get pulled into delivery, pipeline stops, because you are the pipeline essentially. Now, the way that people typically deal with those issues is in 4 different ways. They'll either hire a junior salesperson, so an in-house person, to book meetings and appointments. But again, because there isn't any framework or structure for that person to fit into, they kind of make it up as they go along, and they'll book unqualified meetings, which you then have to sift through and do the discovery calls. But they're not qualified, the economic buyer isn't involved, there isn't a time scale, there isn't valid pain. So you end up kind of just wasting a lot of your time on calls that really aren't going anywhere. The second solution that they try is they hire an experienced salesperson with a big CV, obviously a bigger salary, but then because there isn't any infrastructure that this person is walking into, either they spend the first couple of months building that structure and that infrastructure, and after that couple of months, then they're learning the product and they're learning the pain and they're learning, who you're targeting, etc. Then they start building pipelines. So you can get to 5 or 6 months in, this person still hasn't generated pipeline, and then you're asking questions as to, well, what's going on? You have a different story, they have a different story, you blame each other, you end up firing this person, or they leave and get disappointed. Their pipeline that they've built goes with them, and then you start that process over again. So the third thing they'll try is they'll hire an agency, and there's actually nothing wrong with that because it's a tap and you can turn it on and off at any time. Problem with that though is that they're booking meetings and appointments for you. You still have to do the discovery calls, the follow-ups, the proposals, get the economic buyer involved, find the pain, do all the follow-up, right, that's involved. And again, unless you have a defined structure and process in place, it still relies on you, and you are the bottleneck in that scenario. And the fourth thing that you'll do is you'll just keep doing it yourself. And it's fine to a certain extent because you are the best salesperson in the business and you can do it. The problem is it doesn't scale past your calendar. And the moment you get pulled into delivery, sales stops. So what should you do? Well, you need to build the infrastructure for long-term sales success. So whoever comes into the organization fits into this predefined system and structure that's already built. So you're not relying on maverick sales talent or this innate ability to be good at sales or your own calendar. You're actually relying on a pre-existing structure. And that structure has four main parts. The first one is a behavioral ICP. Now, we've got to get our definitions right because people define ICP many different ways. And I think it's important that we understand what we're talking about when we say ICP. The way I define ICP is in two parts. Number one is you could sell to lots of different types of businesses, I'm sure, but which customer or which buyer gets the most value from your products or your solution? And the second thing is who can afford to pay the most for that problem or solution? So the second thing that you need is a well-defined B2B sales process. Now, everyone has a slightly different definition of what a B2B sales process is and what isn't. My definition of it is that a B2B sales process helps three different types of people in your organization. Number one, it helps your commercial people. It helps them understand why they win and why they lose certain deals. So it makes them a lot more efficient and effective when they're selling an account. And number two is it helps your customers and prospects understand what's so different about your product and solution versus your competitors. And more importantly, where's the value in this exchange for them? And the third thing a well-defined B2B sales process does for you is not only does it help you convert deals quicker through the sales cycle, but it also does so at a higher average deal size, and it gives you more predictability when it comes to your forecasts. So the third thing that you need is a qualification framework. Now, if you think of a B2B sales process as almost like Google Maps, if you're going from London to Birmingham, it'll tell you what road to go on, when to turn left, when to turn right, etc. The qualification process will tell you exactly where you are now on your route and actually how much further you are to your destination, if you get off track, how to get back on track in the most efficient way possible. It's basically the GPS on top of Google Maps, and you need that to be able to give you some kind of objective criteria as to what is working and where you are and what the health is of any given deal that you're working on. And the fourth thing that you need is a pipeline engine. You need some way of generating predictable pipeline on a regular basis. Now, the businesses that tend to fail and don't hit their target regularly are the ones that have a very small pipeline, right? And that forces you to cling on to every deal that's already in your pipeline because you haven't got anything else. And so the businesses that are the most successful are the ones that generate pipeline consistently. But it's hard because doing the things every day and every week that you need to do to generate pipeline is difficult. The emailing, the calling, the networking, the events, all of those things help you generate consistent pipeline. But if you can do that consistently, that gives you the engine that you need to fill the rest of the funnel and do those other three things that we talked about. I've built a free sales infrastructure diagnostic. You can get it in the comments. It's basically 15 questions, takes about 6 minutes to do, and it'll tell you the gaps in your current sales infrastructure and what you need to do to plug those gaps. So if you want to get that, have a look in the comments below and yeah, let me know what you think.